Bees and other pollinating insects play an essential role in our ecosystem. They are valid to humans and animals' lives, and the major food source which supports those lives. Unfortunately, the bee population isn't declining. The declining may have some devastating consequences. In this presentation, we will describe past and current bee populations, the cause of the bee population declining, the effect of the bee population declining, and prove some ways we can help the bee population and stop the declining. I would like to start this presentation off by talking about the past and current bee population. Beekeepers across the United States lost 44% of their honeybee colonies during the last year span of April 2015 to April 2016. According to the last preliminary results of the National Survey, winter losses rates increased from 22.3% in the previous winter to 28.1% this past winter. While summer loss rates increased from 25.3% to 28.1%. As the year of 2015 to 2016, we have seemed to lose more bees during the winter years, and they keep on increasing of losing more bees during the winter years as the years go on. In 2006 to 2007, for winter losses was only 33%. As the years go by, the loss of bees during winter seemed to get a little higher every year. But the year of 2010 to 2011, the total annual loss would seem to get higher every year, but as the years go on, seem to lose more.
I'm Jason Novak. Next, I will discuss some of the causes of the bee population decline. Since there has been significant concern over the bee population, it is important to understand what factors are thought to be causing the bee population decline. A class of pesticides, known as neonicotinoids, are one of the leading suspected causes of bee population decline. However, the simple widespread use of pesticides and fungicides also play a large role. Unfortunately, neonicotinoids are used within the United States on vast amounts of a variety of crops such as corn, canola, and fruit and vegetable crops. According to Smith et al., these insecticides attack insects, including bees, by interfering with their nervous systems, impairing immune system functioning, and impairing memory and foraging behavior, eventually rendering them unable to survive. Another major concern within the bee population decline is the presence of viruses and mites, specifically viruses in the presence of the Varroa destructor mite. Although over 23 viruses have been known to infect bees worldwide, it is the ability of the Varroa mite to cause viral infections and/or exacerbate pre-existing infections, which causes the greatest threat to the bee population. DWV infection, the development of deformed wing syndrome, and ABPV, acute bee paralysis virus, are both transmitted and exacerbated by the Varroa mite, with ABPV potentially killing an adult bee within 4 to 10 days. Finally, other suggested but less studied causes of the bee population decline include malnutrition, lack of pesticide-free flowers and pollen, queen failure, lack of genetic diversity, non-viral pathogens, climate, and beekeeping practices.
Jason did a good job discussing the causes of the bee population decline. Now let me explain how the bee population decrease can affect us. The main reason that bees are important for our world is because if bees do not pollinate the crops do not grow and produce the food that get harvested and brought to the store where we then buy it and bring it home to our families to enjoy it. The bee is pollinator to many of our food crops such as apples, almonds, avocados, blueberries, cherries, cranberries, cucumbers, sunflower, watermelons, and many other crops that rely on bees for pollination. So if the bees disappear and we do not find a replacement that can do the work they do, then foods we take for granted will decrease in supply and increase in price. Less production of food crops will ultimately lead to a worldwide crisis. Hunger and poverty will be very common. Fresh water will start drying up as there will be less trees for water retention to occur. With less water and diminishing food, humans will die of thirst and starvation. Fertility would suffer a setback, followed by a drop in reproduction. We would not be able to keep up the life cycle, and we would be forced into extinction within a few hundred years. Herbivores who depend on certain plant species will be affected. They would go extinct if plants cease to exist. Due to the population of herbivores decreasing, carnivores would then begin to suffer as well. The only beneficiaries from this scenario would be scavengers, such as eagles and ravens. Canola, which is grown to use as both a fuel and cooking oil, depend highly on pollination. It is also used to produce biofuel. If we run out of biofuel, then we'd have to rely on fossil fuels completely, putting more pressure on the environment. Cotton is also very reliant on pollination. The disappearance of bees will lead to a huge setback in cotton production, which will then reduce our choice in clothes. But then again, if we are extinct, clothing wouldn't matter.
Now that we understand the issues surrounding the bee population, we have to ask ourselves, what can we do to help? This is an important question to ask because we rely on bees for a large portion of our food source, but also because as humans we are largely at fault. One company that has taken it upon themselves to make an impact is the Ortho Lawn and Garden Company, who have vowed not to use nicotinoids in their products and attempt to put out a good product while still watching their environmental impact. However, many companies and farmers are still resisting not having to use nicotinoid-covered seeds and products, claiming that they aren't that harmful to the bees, even though science has proven otherwise. It is very difficult for science to be transferred into law. The one way that they have to help is by putting animals on the endangered species list. However, by the time animals are on the endangered species list, it's often too late, where the species is often reduced to inbreeding or completely sterilized altogether. Another way that most animals can be helped is nature conservations. However, nature conservations are too small for bees because a lot of bees have to pollinate for over 400 miles. No conservation is quite that big. This is why we must work together to help save the bees. Here are some things you can do. Everyone can plant flowers. It is important to plant flowers that are native to your community because your flowers can leave your garden, and if the flower is an invasive species, this could cause a big problem. Also, some flowers may carry diseases that the local plants and animals can't combat. It's also important to plant flowers in a variety of sizes and colors. This is because different bees can access and are attracted to different kinds of flowers. And lastly, it's helpful if there are flowers that are available close to year-round, because different kinds of bees appear at different times of the years. A website that is very helpful for finding sources in your area is dnr.gov. They also have information on how to build nests for different kinds of bees. If you happen to be a farmer, you can help by not using neonicotinoid-covered seeds, or by planting flowers in your fields, which may seem counterproductive to your crops, but flowers are good for the bees, and bees are good for your crops. Lastly, everyone can stay informed. Staying informed allows us to know how to impact our gardens, our communities, and our governments. A great resource for this is NPR Radio, which gives frequent updates on the condition of the bee population and information from around the world on who is helping and who is hurting the bee population, so you will know where to stay active. After listening to our speeches sharing our research on how bees have been affected over the years, why this is happening, and what effects it has on the government, We hope that you will take the steps necessary to help reverse the bee population decline into your own hands.